Welcome to the Shreveport Connection with Tommy. This video is going to be on Raw and Superstars this week. But first, as always, your scoops and news for WWE for this week and what have you. Okay, Friday's WWE SmackDown television show drew a 1.52 rating, which was better than the 1.5 rating on the same show on a live Tuesday night showing. Therefore, they averaged 2.307 million viewers. Courtesy of Raw General Manager John Laurinaitis, Brock Lesnar vs. John Cena match at Extreme Rules has been changed to a no disqualification, no countout Extreme Rules match. And that was posted on WWE.com and confirmed. Today's Raw tapings in London, England. CM Punk vs. Chris Jericho for the WWE title in the Chicago Street Fight was announced for Extreme Rules pay-per-view. The dark match before today's tapings in England at the O2 Arena saw Dean Ambrose defeat Alex Riley. Ambrose got the win after pulling his knee pad down and hitting a running knee to Riley's head. Very similar to William Regal's a long time ago, dropping the knee pads and doing the running knees. Okay, match taped for Superstars this week. Eve Torres versus Kelly Kelly and R-Truth versus Jack Swagger was taped. Thanks to Lee Thompson, Russell Smith, and Stephen Greenwood. They were at the Raw and Superstars tapings from today, sending updates and from the Superstars taping. And Stephen reports that there were 6 blocks on the top tier above the hard camera area that were tarped off, so it was not a sellout. Lots of woos going around the arena during the pre-show, which were quickly followed by some very large chants of yes, 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 yes. You know, the orgasm that Daniel Bryan does. Okay. Anyways, the chant, super over there, a small We Want Regal chant started from one section. The crowd is about 70 to 30 anti-John Cena so far. And the first match was Eve defeating Kelly Kelly. Fair reaction from both women. The Hosky chant started. Kelly dominated for a short while, and then Eve went for a running backflip. Kelly got her legs up. Kelly got the stink face, and Eve with a botched attempt to use the ropes to set up the finish. And match number 2, R-Truth defeated Jack Swagger. Truth won clean using his finisher, and Vickie Guerrero was not at ringside with Swagger. Lee noted that the UK fans are so starved for wrestling, they cheer for everybody. And there was even a dueling chant involving Swagger. Lee said that he doesn't think Swagger ever has been so over. And that concluded the tapings for... There was partial spoilers for this Thursday. And tonight's Raw Super Show opened up with WWE Champion CM Punk making his way to the ring. No disqualification, no countout match for the WWE title, Mark Henry versus CM Punk. Immediately, and there's not much introductions as they just went to the ring. Other than the entrance music. Mark Henry was already in the ring, so obviously they got a late start. Wow, late start for a live taping? It was taped earlier today. Well, Punk started off with some kicks for his offense. Henry stopped him in mid-strike and slammed him on the mat. Henry stopped away on Punk and kicked him out to the floor. Henry goes out, but Punk goes back in the ring. Punk runs the ropes and hits a suicide dive through the ropes, taking out Henry. Momentarily, Henry whips Punk into the ring post and works him over on the floor. Punk fights back with boots. Punk leaps up on the fan barrier and runs into it before taking Henry out with a clothesline. Punk with several big kicks on the floor now. Punk jumps from the apron, but Henry catches him and slings him into the fan barrier as they go to commercial. Back from the break, Henry stops Punk from making a comeback. Henry drops Punk again and stands on him. Punk brings the chair into play and beats Henry with it. 2 count for Punk. Punk goes to hit Henry with it again, but Henry kicks him in the gut. Henry grabs the chair and cracks Punk in the back with it. Henry wedges the chair in the corner now, and Punk got to his feet. Henry tried to slam Punk into the chair, but Punk fought him off, and he beat him in the corner. Henry stops Punk's offense again and clotheslines him. Punk with a bear hug and takes Henry's knee out. Wow, a bear hug on Mark Henry? CM Punk doing a bear hug on Mark Henry. What's he get? Halfway around his arm? Okay, well, a little joke on that. Mark Henry is a huge SOB. Okay. Okay, lost my spot. Okay. Punk with a DDT and another 2 count. Punk then comes off the top rope, but Henry caught him. Punk blocked the world's strongest slam and kicked Henry in the head. Punk with a high knee in the corner. Punk goes for the bulldog, but Henry shoves him way across the ring. Henry charges, but Punk moves out of the way and he runs into the chair. That was wedged in the corner that he set up himself, as he knew he was going to be hitting it later in the match. He angled it so he could hit it at the bottom of the chair, and that's what he did. Punk then grabbed the chair and climbed to the top rope, sets up for the crashing elbow drop chair shot for the win. Chris Jericho then appears on the screen as Punk is getting to his feet from his win, and he's sitting in a bar, supposedly. He announces Punk versus Jericho in a street fight for the WWE title at Extreme Rules. Punk points out that what he just did to Mark Henry, and says it's no longer about being the best in the world, it's about kicking Jericho's ass. Punk is looking forward to doing it in Chicago in front of his father, his mother, and his sister. Jericho tells Punk to promise that he will show up to Extreme Rules sober. Jericho then shows us footage from earlier in the day, Punk walking into a local pub. Punk looks around and he enters, and when he walks out, he puts his hoodie on and just walks away. Jericho asks Punk if he's drunk right now. Punk calls Jericho out to the ring. Punk says he was having fish and chips with a friend of his. Jericho calls him pathetic and says he's in denial, just like his father. Jericho taunts Punk some more about how he's been enjoying the taste of alcohol. Jericho says Punk is in his own path of alcoholism and continues to run him down. Jericho says Punk will lose the only thing he has left, the WWE title. Jericho disappears from the screen as Punk goes to talk. Up next was Santino Marella versus David Otunga for the United States title. Still to come controversial words from Brock Lesnar. Back to commercial they go. R-Truth is backstage, dressed up as Sherlock Holmes, and he's got Sherlock Jimmy with him, if you can see him. But, yeah, you can't see him. And he's talking with Teddy Long. And what he was telling Teddy Long was that, I ain't doing a search. I'm searching for you a new job. And he turns around and goes off elsewhere, and goes off screen. Teddy said, sounds like a good idea. WWE United States title match was up next. David Otunga versus Santino Marella. They go to the ring. Out comes the United States champion, Santino. And then the challenger, David Otunga's out next. Otunga starts the match off in control and power slams Santino. Otunga with a forearm shot and an elbow drop for a 2 count. Santino drops down, but Otunga kicks him in the head. Otunga gets his finisher and covers Santino for the 3 count. But Santino has his foot on the ropes at the count of 3, as the referee does see it. So he doesn't even count the 3. He said, no. Match continues. Get it on. Santino gets up, takes Otunga down. Santino hits the Cobra for the quick win. Josh Matches is backstage with Lord Tensai and Sakamoto. Tensai says, "We fear the unknown." Talks on some in Japanese and says he knows what we should fear. Up next is a controversial word from Brock Lesnar. Back from the break, and we get the promo video for Brock Lesnar. Lesnar talks about his past and how he's always been dominant. He talks about debuting with WWE a few years ago and being the youngest to become a WWE champion, and also that he went on after WWE to become the UFC champion. So they allowed him to say UFC on WWE TV. Then they show pictures from Lesnar's UFC career before Lesnar talks about why he's back. He's here to legitimize WWE. He says we're tired of John Cena's bullcrap. He says Cena is only in the spot he is because he left 8 years ago. Lesnar then says if he would have stayed around, Cena would be the guy carrying his bags. Lesnar then says this is real. Lesnar then says Cena is scared and their Extreme Rules encounter won't be a wrestling match. He's not a superstar. He's an ass kicker. He's Brock Lesnar. He says it more than one time. Lesnar says he's beating people up, makes him happy. Next match was Kane versus Zack Ryder. We go to the ring, and out comes Zack Ryder, followed by his opponent Kane. Go to commercial. That's Kane's music, and he makes his way out. Back from the break, and Kane attacks Ryder and kicks him off the apron. Bell didn't even barely ring as it was decided as a no decision. Because Kane just attacked Ryder as he kicked him off the apron and worked over him on the floor and brings him back. And for a choke slam, the bell never rang, and it appears Zack Ryder is knocked out. Kane took the mic and talked about Randy Orton. And his dad got laid out on SmackDown last week. Kane says, like his father, like son. Orton and his dad both went down without a fight. Kane's music hits as he leaves the ring. Backstage segment with AJ Lee was up next with Kofi Kingston. They were sitting there talking. Daniel Bryan jealousy and walks up and asks Kofi if he's hitting on AJ. Bryan says because he's clearly doesn't want AJ doesn't mean it's open season. Bryan mentions the LaBelle lock and stops. And he says he was better than Gene LaBelle ever was and renames it the Yes Lock. Bryan chants yes, yes, yes as the segment ends and the crowd gets behind him as they go to commercial. We'll call it the Borgasm from here on out. The boring yes chants. Boring. And it's also for Daniel Bryan. Bryan, boring now. Okay. Alright, as they did that, they went commercial, back from the break, and out comes John Cena for your main event. As we see replays of Cena's recent encounters with Brock Lesnar, Cena says that this footage is interesting. Cena says John Laurinaitis has been there every time. Cena goes on about Lesnar and Laurinaitis. Cena says Lesnar simply stands for destruction, dominance, and pain. Cena says Lesnar doesn't care about who he runs through. Cena says Lesnar has won everything there is to win, so he's not coming to Extreme Rules to win. Cena says Lesnar's goal is to end and replace Cena. The crowd chants yes to this. Cena says Brock was right. He's scared. Cena says he will still fight on April 29th. 2 weeks away. John Laurinaitis then comes out and interrupts as Cena and the crowd booing. Laurinaitis announces an Extreme Rules match for Cena tonight, but won't reveal his opponent. Laurinaitis also announces a contract signing between Lesnar and Cena for next week's 3-hour Raw. Then we get more hype for the WWE title match at Extreme Rules with Punk and Jericho. Up next is Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston. Back to commercial. Another segment with Hornswoggle in the library with R-Truth. I don't think R-Truth even said anything in this segment. Hornswoggle as Detective Truth has left the area. Hornswoggle was trying to get his attention back and tells him, come back, and starts pulling these books out as the segment is ending, like it's a secret passageway. Okay, well, up next was Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan. Out first was Kofi, and then followed by Daniel Bryan. They go at it, and Bryan hits a drop kick into the corner. Bryan drops a knee to the head and holds it. Another knee from Bryan, and more offense. Bryan keeps control of Kofi and takes him back to the mat to wear him down. Kofi fights out of a hold and hits a high elbow to the face. Bryan dumps Kofi on the floor. Bryan leaps off the apron, but Kofi moves. Kofi jumps to the corner and takes Bryan out on the floor with a crossbody as they go to commercial. Back from the break, and they're going at it. Bryan drops Kofi in the corner, more back and forth. Bryan blocks Trouble in Paradise, and Kofi blocks the Yes Lock. I'll just call it the Borgasm Lock. Okay, Kofi hits the SOS, but can't get the win. They end up on the top rope. Bryan goes for a superplex, but Kofi sends him to the mat. Kofi comes down with a crossbody, but Bryan moves. Bryan applies the Borgasm Lock, and the crowd chants, yes, yes, yes. Kofi taps out to end it. The crowd chants for Bryan after the match, but he drops back down and applies the hold again to Kofi. Music of Sheamus hits, and out he comes running down to make the save. Bryan avoids the road kick and escapes the ramp, where he leads the crowd in the Borgasm chants. Still to come tonight, Cena versus a mystery man in an Extreme Rules match. Back to commercial. But the next match was Brodus Clay versus Dolph Ziggler. Back from the break, and out comes the Funkasaurus with his dancers. Vickie Guerrero is out next. Speaking of Vickie Guerrero, happy birthday. She turns-ish. But who cares anyways? And Dolph Ziggler is up next, and Jack Swagger is out wearing a suit with a pink shirt. The bell rings, and Dolph tries for a drop kick. Funkasaurus grabs Ziggler and tosses him across the ring. Swagger tries to interfere to pull Ziggler to safety, but Funkasaurus stops him, drags him in the ring, and Swagger gets brought in the ring. As Brodus Clay takes care of them both, Vickie gets on the apron and argues with Clay, as referee's calling for the disqualification since Swagger tried to throw the first punch. Clay's dancer got into it with her as she was on the apron. She kicks one of them down on the floor and then starts laughing at him. And the other one forces her to get in the ring, and Clay starts jiggling, does his little booty and leg shakes. The Funkasaurus shakes, I'll just say that. She turns around and gets pushed down by Naomi before she leaves the ring screaming. Clay and the Funkasaurus and the dancers dance to end it in that segment. Laurinaitis is backstage talking with Otunga when Eve Torres walks up. She wants her one-on-one with Laurinaitis, and they all go into office, so it's not a one-on-one. Lawler and Cole lead us into a video package for the late Chief Jay Strongo, who passed away last Monday. And R-Truth Holmes is backstage looking for Teddy Long a job again. And he's saying that he's got the job idea. He should be the SmackDown GM again. Teddy basically agrees with him. I've already had that job. Well, you got 8 years experience. Well, why not have it again? Big Show and Great Khali tag teaming versus Epico and Primo. Basically a squash match. We go to the ring. Out comes Great Khali, followed by his partner, WWE Intercontinental Champion Big Show, with no Cody Rhodes to interfere in this match. Rosa Mendez is out next with the tag team champions, Primo and Epico, for this non-title match. Coleslaw talked about how the champs have been venting on Twitter lately and not getting that they have any TV time, and not even for the WrestleMania. The match starts in AEW, who is as other known as Abraham Washington, coming out to watch from the ramp. Apparently, he's scouting talent, looking for his new recruits. Khali manhandles the tag champs and drops them with chops to the head and a big boot. Rosa gets the titles and the chance to leave the match, but actually Rosa didn't have anything to do with that. As Primo went and got both belts, handed it to Epico, his belt to Epico, and they tried to leave. Well, Show grabbed him and brought him back in the ring to Khali. Show hits a choke slam while Khali hits a Punjabi plunge, and they both cover for the double pin and win. So, could that mean that they're the number one contenders now, since they won a non-title match? Wait and see. There we got a video looking at WWE's debut in Moscow before going back to commercial. A big hit in Moscow, so they said. Then the Extreme Rules main event match, Lord Tensai versus John Cena. Back from the break, out comes John Cena for the main event. Laurinaitis comes out, and next is he's with Otunga. And he introduces Cena's opponent, and here comes Lord Tensai with Sakamoto. And the bell rings, and Tensai goes to work on Cena. Cena blocks a suplex twice. Hits one on Tensai, but it has no effect, because he didn't sell it. Just got straight right back up. Tensai got right up with a clothesline Cena. Tensai takes back control and whips Cena hard into the opposite corner. Tensai continues beating Cena around the ring. Hits a big splash in the corners. Cena goes to the floor, and Tensai follows. They fight, and Tensai whips Cena into the steel steps, which separates the steps. Tensai looks to powerbomb Cena on the floor, but Cena backdrops him instead with a counter, and Cena grabs a steel step, one set of the steel steps, and cracks Tensai in the head. Cena brings it back in the ring, but Sakamoto attacks him with kicks. Otunga comes over for the distraction and throws Cena into the ring. Cena grabs him for a big double underhook suplex for a 2 count. Tensai continues the assault on Cena, and some Albert chants break out in the crowd. Cena finally makes a comeback and takes Tensai down. Cena goes for a 5-knuckle shuffle, but Tensai gets up and chops him down. Tensai hits a big back splash for another 2 count. Tensai drops down on Cena's arm and applies an arm bar. Cena breaks free and applies the STF. Otunga with another interference and hits the ring, and to give Cena counters and gives him the attitude adjustment. Then Cena turns around and gets green mist from Tensai. Tensai, before that little segment, apparently he got a busted lip because he had some red, looked like blood, real kind of weak looking color coming from his lip right before the green mist. And after the green mist was spit out, well, he was briefly still had some red junk in his mouth and what have you, but it wasn't much to be seen. Well, Tensai hit the sit-down powerbomb for the win after the green mist spray. Cena's face is covered in green mist as he's begging for water as we go to replays. Tensai and Sakamoto do their ritual in the ring as Cena washes his face off as Raw goes off the air. Tensai was actually getting ready for his normal after-match celebration beatdown, but they cut it off the air. And the Dark Match main event after the Raw Super Show, since it's in England, several hours earlier it was posted, and I just got the results of it. CM Punk defended his WWE Championship against Chris Jericho. The match ended in DQ when Daniel Bryan interfered. Afterwards, Sheamus, Cody Rhodes, ADR, that's ADR, Alberto Del Rio, Big Show and Orton hit the ring. Punk and Y2J brawl to the back. And the remaining baby faces hit finishers on all the remaining heels to send the crowd home happy. That ends my results for this week for Raw and Partial Superstars. Stay tuned tomorrow night after I get home off of work. Probably about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And maybe they'll have the dark match and all that after SmackDown or whatever. Maybe in England, possibly I could have it even earlier in the day. I'll just have to wait and see. Well, thanks for viewing and have a good night. Blessed week.